Good evening and welcome to Tuesday Folk People. My name is Maddie Leadham, and this evening we are bringing to your living room someone with a unique insight into the folk music of not one but three different countries. Countries that sit roughly a whopping 10,000 miles apart as the crow flies. Born and raised in Haiti, this artist went on to live in the US for 14 years and now resides in Birmingham in the UK. Her multinational lifestyle has meant that she has a unique style of folk performance that manages to encompass her several homes over the years. Accompanied by her voice, violin, and guitar, this artist is said to write and perform in the style of a storyteller with a strong undercurrent of social consciousness. This evening, we will be talking about her songwriting, the ethnological use she has for her music, as well as looking more closely at this folk fusion she incredibly masters. So it's my absolute pleasure to welcome the wonderful Germa Adan. Hello, Germa. Thank you very much for joining us today. How are you?
Hello, Maddie. I'm fine, thank you.
Excellent. Right. I think I've given you a bit of an introduction to our audience about who you are and what you do. And I think that it would be very interesting now to hear some of your music. And I will just say in advance, before this interview, Germa and I spent a bit of time trying to teach me how to pronounce these songs. But I still don't know if I'll get it. So, first one, is it Nan Fon Bois?
Non font
Okay, close. Bit more French accent needed for me.
That's
Okay,
it.
so this song, am I right in saying, is traditional Haitian folk song?
It's a traditional folk song. Uh,
Fantastic. And what's it about?
so it's basically it's a folk song that's celebrating life and joy, and it talks about going into a forest. Neuf bois means going into a forest. In the deep forest, that's the direct translation, and into the woods or in the deep forest. And it's about going into the deep forest where you will see waterfalls, rivers flowing, um, um, people dancing to Yanvalu, voodoo rhythms, and just having lots of fun. And yes, and the way I arrange it is a bit different, but it's meant to be a joyful song.
That was absolutely fantastic, Germa. I have to say, I like did a bit of research on the song when I heard it, and I wanted to hear some other versions, and I heard not a single version like yours. There were some jazzy ones, there were some like really upbeat ones, but yours just had this kind of, I don't know if this is the right word, but pure sound to it, and it's just absolutely beautiful. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
So
Yeah.
how did you like find this song?
Well, as a part of my ongoing exploration of my roots and particularly Haitian folk music, I just came across this song from Amos Coulange arrangement. He's a Haitian classical guitarist. I heard his arrangement, and also another very old recording from Fonts Casses, who's also a Haitian classical guitarist. I heard their recording, and it really spoke to me, and I felt my interpretation of Nofon Bois would be something similar to their sort of pure string like interpretation.
Oh, it's amazing. So you obviously have just mentioned that your roots are in Haiti and that was where
Mhm.
you were born and raised. And how much would you say your music is to do with the idea of identity and your identity as a person?
I would say that it's a big part of um, of who I am. Just the self discovery comes through the music I'm exploring, as well as the origins that and the fabric of who Germa is ancestrally and my heritage. So definitely, my music is pretty much linked to my identity,
Yeah.
and I think it'll evolve as well as we go.
Yeah, well, we'll go on to that, but it definitely has evolved with
Hmm.
your life. But we've had a chat prior to this interview, and I remember a lot of the things you were saying. It made me think of you as a bit of an ethnomusicologist. Would you say that that kind of fits a description of you quite well? Like you're interested in studying a culture through its music?
I would definitely say so. Yeah, definitely. Just how we humans interact, and how music affects that as well. Um, so there's definitely a social consciousness to the music I'm writing or exploring, looking for stories within the songs as well.
Yeah. And do you
Hmm.
think that it's helped you understand Haiti a bit better?
Definitely, definitely.
Oh,
Um,
amazing. Because another thing that I wanted to look at was how, obviously, we've discussed that you sing Haitian folk songs, you like explore your culture through that, but you've also looked at other cultures that you've lived in because you spent, was it 14 years in the United States,
hmm.
and you're currently living in the UK.
Hmm.
Um, and how do you find that living in those places has affected your music today?
Um, I guess I'm just a massive sponge. If you drop me somewhere, I'm gonna absorb and absorb what's going on around me. So, and if you were to drop me somewhere else, I'd be doing the same thing. So yeah, I'm a massive sponge. So when I lived in the States, I was doing my undergraduate, and I was classically trained. I was doing classical training in my undergraduate, but I was during that time I was doing jazz studies and bluegrass studies as well, because I was just fascinated by those styles of music, um, and also quite fascinated by the sort of the influence of bluegrass, which is quite a gospel undertone to bluegrass as
Mm.
well. So there's lots of spiritual undertones to bluegrass. So I was soaking that up, and I think it's the jazz and the bluegrass blues. It's all part of the my genetic makeup now, my musical genetics. I would say.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
it literally is like you just came to these places and just added the music to your your sound. I
Hmm.
guess it's kind of similar to learning a language. Would you say it's about as tricky as like learning a new language, learning another type of folk music or
Um, I would say it's kind of like learning a language, but also like when you go to Italy and you link the food, you find out why are they all eating this kind of food, and then you end up eating this kind of food, and then when you go home, you try and remake that kind of food. um, so and then that kind of food is now part of your your menu of foods that you can cook kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I think maybe that's how I would also describe it. Yeah, a bit
Oh,
like that.
fantastic. Yeah. Right. Well, I think let's have your second song, which is Bam Yun Tilimye. Yeah.
So close, so close. You just needs a bit more of like a deeper tone. Bum.
Oh,
Like you need to like dip down a little bit. Bum.
bum. Okay. Okay.
Bum. You see me.
Okay. So, what is this song about?
So the title, direct translation is "Give Me a Little Light," and it's by Manu Shalmain, a very like we would say a national treasure for Haitian music. He has been quite influential as a singer, but also as an activist in Haitian history, and his song is quite, he speaks for the people.
Yeah.
And the lyrics to this song is saying, "Give me a little light," and he's talking about those who are suffering. And he's asking why are these people suffering, and why are these people doing these silly things. um, and it ends with a very powerful statement where he says, "The sun shines for everyone, and we all get the same heat at the end of the day."
chita tan, nou gen pou pase tout vi, nan sal d'atan. Maman nou te la dan, papa nou te la dan, nou même nou entre la dan li piret. C'est tout ce qu'on y a nous kounite, kalaman pa tombe encore. Soleil la claire pour nous tous, et nous tous va joindre même chaleur. Soleil la claire pour nous tous, et nous tous va joindre même chaleur. Soleil la claire pour nous tous, et nous tous va joindre même chaleur.
That was amazing. What is the technique you're using with the paintbrush to get that kind of, it's almost like a drum sound, I was thinking.
Yeah, and it's I don't know if there's a technique name for it yet in the books. um, the simplest term is I'm brushing.
So only you do that? You didn't like get that from someone else?
No, I didn't get it from anyone. But I actually realized there's other people that do this, for example, on guitars. But I've not seen anyone do it on violin, actually. My reason for it was that as much as possible, I'm trying to accompany myself on the violin. And my goal is to, like, in my head, is to make the accompaniment as smooth and beneath the vocals as possible. So I'm always just experimenting to find out, okay, if the bow can't be very brushy, what can be brushy? A brush.
Wow, genius.
Eureka.
Yeah, I know. I think we're all going to give it a go now. We look mad. Just make sure there's no paint on it, because that would be a nightmare.
That'll be
I wouldn't want that.
interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so with that song, is that like purely just a Haitian sound, or is there British and American folk influences in that arrangement that we just saw?
Well, let's see. With the lyrics and the melody, that is purely Mano Shalmai's melody, completely his, and whatever influence he had. And many say that some of the songs that Manu Shalmai was singing, he would often take melodies from other traditional songs. Him and his bandmates, who were known as Haitian troubadours. And the troubadour is basically like a traveling musician who would often sing about, maybe they would sing ballads or sing romantic songs or things that their observations of day to day. So they would often take traditional melodies and change the words. So that's Bamu Tilimia is absolutely his song. I don't quite know if he took the melody from anywhere. A lot of his melodic style is very much influenced by French, like a French melodic style. But the Haitian language itself, has like the Haitian Creole that he's singing and that I sing. It has so many different influences from other languages. For example, French, Spanish. There's influence from um, English as well. And some say the Haitian Creole has influence from the Native Americans that were living on the island um, before it was populated by settlers. Before Haiti became known as Haiti, it had Native Americans. So some say that there's Native American influence in the language as well. Um, and West African as well. There's West African influences because of the slave trade.
Yeah.
Just saying the word bum yun tilimia, some of those words would have had potentially West African influence. Limier
Mm.
is French. Yun is like saying une in French. Bum une limier, but yun is how we say it in Haitian Creole. Yun.
Yeah.
Bum means give. Bum. Let me see if there's any French in that. Bum. Donne-moi. So you would say donne-moi, but we're saying bum. So I don't know where that bit came from. If it's West African,
Yeah.
Spanish, or French. Bum. That one is up for investigation. So there's influence there, but as far as like the accompaniment of that one, that is just what I felt was the best um, accompaniment style, I would
Yeah.
say. Yeah, I wasn't thinking of the different compartments.
Yeah, well, that was a question I was going to ask. Before I
Yeah.
go into that, I just want to say that just you doing that then, it's amazing to think that through the studying of the language or the music,
Mhm.
you can actually see like the timeline of history and the way that it
Mhm.
is. And if it's only if you look more closely that you're doing that. So essentially what you're doing when you're adding the American folk music and the British folk music is just continuing that timeline,
Mm.
and it's
Mm.
just you're continuing your tradition. It's absolutely amazing.
Mhm.
So
I'm
fantastic.
I'm creolizing it essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And so yeah, I was going to say in relation to that compartmentalizing thing you said, is it not a case of I've got this song, I want to add a bit of this, and then you actively make sure that you put that in, or is it a case of you just do it naturally and it just happens?
It's an organic thing. It just happens. I, if only it was a compartmentalizing thing. It's not. It's like if I have a melody, I'll just start, you know, trying things out to see, oh, is this going to be a bit more like this, or is it going to be a bit more like that? I cannot predict it at all. Um,
So it
uh,
literally is you, like you said, a sponge, and it
it's
just
a
comes out.
sponge. Well,
Yeah.
I was speaking to someone about this. Haitians, well, actually, the creolization of languages in the Caribbean, it's fascinating, because of the slave trade. You've got all these West African um, settlers in different parts of the Caribbean. And what happens is, based on where they are, they have their own Creole. So in Trinidad, they have their own Creole. And Martinique, they have their own Creole. In Guadeloupe, they have their own Creole. And if I were to speak to um, someone in Trinidad, there might be some similarities to their Creole, but then there
Mm.
might be a word or two that I will be like, what did you just say? And it'll be because that, based on where they're placed, they'll be absorbing words, maybe linked, maybe there were some Germans um, back in the day that they were absorbing the German.
Yeah.
Maybe it was mostly French and not mostly French and West African and not English influences. So the way they pronounce their Creole sometimes is slightly different. Sometimes, for example, maybe it's instead of saying bam yu silimye, they might say bam yu silimye, um,
Right.
because of just the way that the language was morphed in that space, in that time, and then it was passed on generation to generation, that pronunciation. Um, and so um, it's just so fascinating, the creolization process. Um,
And is that like reflected in the music then, the traditional music? Is the traditional music between Haiti and Trinidad similar but with a slight difference?
Um, there's some similarities, but in Trinidad they've got their own Creole folk songs, which I am exploring. And there's French in there's a bit of like French similar to Haitian Creole. You can hear the French in some of their folk songs, but not a lot of people talk about the French influence in
Mm.
Trinidad. They tend to talk about English, but there's a lot of more like Haitian Creole. In the sense that there's West African, there's French, Spanish, and it sounds like our Creole is what I'm trying to say in
Yeah.
Trinidad. Yeah, there's lots of similarities, um, which
Amazing.
to be explored.
Yes, definitely. It is like you are just like a researcher, but in a more practical way, isn't it? And you make beautiful things out of your research.
I
I-
appreciate that. You called me, was it an ethnomusicologist? Was that it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
That's what
add
you're gonna
that
go
too.
by now.
That's it.
Excellent. Right, should we have your third song,
Go
which
on.
is Pese Cafe?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully I said that one right. And what's this one? Because this is another Haitian folk song, isn't it?
Yes, yes. So this is a traditional folk song that's over 100 years old. Lots of people have covered it and made it their own. This is my arrangement and my version of it. And it's about a young boy who was sent to go and buy some coffee. Pise cafe means to weigh coffee. And the song he sings, "Oh, my mother sent me to go weigh some coffee, but when I got down the road, I was arrested by the cops." Um, and then he goes on to sing, "Oh dear, what am I going to say when I get home? Because he didn't bring the coffee home." So he's sort of fixated on, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to say when I get home? Because I don't have the coffee." And my interpretation of this song is that there's a story in there, because this song is over 100 years old. Um, this song has been sung across the creolization um, connections in Cuba, even, um, and it makes me wonder what was happening at the time,
Mm.
that he would sing, "Oh, when I got to the end of the road, I was arrested by the cops." Um, so there's a story in there about the climate of the time, um, for a young child to sing that. But this also, you could look at it from a playful point of view and say, you know what, um, the coffee was so important. He didn't get it. He's gonna be in trouble when he gets home, because coffee is very important in the Haitian culture. It's one of our biggest sort of exports as well in our crops. Um, so the coffee is really important. He's going to get in trouble. There's that as well.
Maman voyait et c'est qu'à moi je veux chanter arrête maman voyait et c'est qu'à
So I really enjoyed that one, and it kind of, bearing in mind I didn't understand the language, there were kind of two things that really struck me there. And one was, it's not even what the song was necessarily about, but I could, based on the way that your voice was singing and the way that the guitar was played and things, it just made me actually sit down, and I could kind of feel the light as with
Mm.
the guitar rhythm, and the your voice was kind of like just the wind or something like that. It was so
Mm.
strange, but when I heard it, it was just amazing. And I absolutely love that. But I did want to ask, that
Mm-hmm.
rhythm that the guitar is playing, is that quite a typical rhythm for Haitian folk songs?
I'm trying to remember it. I would say that I would say there's some similarities to maybe some troubadour style of the guitar and the vocals, ballad singing.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah, there's definitely some links there.
Amazing, because there
Mm-hmm.
are some particular kind of rhythms that are very
Mm-hmm.
characteristic, aren't they, of the
Mm-hmm.
folk songs of Haiti? And are
Mm-hmm.
they called things like, I don't know, merengue? Is that even a rhythm? I don't really
Yes,
know. I
yes,
don't know a
actually,
lot.
no, you're correct. The merengue style is a very popular um, rhythm
Yeah,
that sort of originated in Haiti, but also some say Dominican Republic as well, because we do share some of the similarities, and they were neighbors to the Dominican Republic. But yeah, the merengue was originated in Haiti and has a very um, unique syncopated style to it.
yeah,
So definitely there's some influence there. There's also the merengue made way for other rhythms that we called compas, which is a big style, a very popular style in Haiti. Um, there's the compa rhythms. I wouldn't say I play compa rhythms as much, but definitely take some influence from the merengue,
yeah.
and also the styles that troubadours use when they are just singing with the guitar and crooning and singing ballads. Hmm.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so I have a question now about, you obviously, I say the main influences are Haiti, the US, and the UK for their
Hmm.
folk music. Correct me if I'm wrong. But because you are taking inspiration from all of these different cultures, how does each individual folk scene react? So, how does the folk scene in Haiti and the folk scene in the US and the folk scene in the UK react to the sound that you're creating?
Well, I would say as far as the Haiti side of things, that's the jury's still out on that because I haven't had the chance to play in Haiti yet.
Oh,
Um,
really?
but I would say overall, um, it, folk performing and sort of like very traditional um, Haitian singing is not popular right now.
Oh,
Um, so it could be growing again, but like I said, compa is the most popular style of music that many like to listen to. So it's kind of like the pop music of Haiti. So we'll to be continued on that one. I'll let you know in a bit if we hopefully get a folk revival in Haiti. That would be great.
oh, yeah. You can lead it. You can be the
Hey,
martyr almost. I don't know the word.
happy to be part of that. Um, and then let's see, American side. Um, I would say it's definitely well received. I get lots of American fans that comment on my work and get in touch. So definitely well received. Um, because I live here, I get to experience lots of folk scenes. It's definitely well received as well, which is great. Very much
Yeah,
embraced here, I would say. Yeah.
yeah. Because I think I've said before, but with the the English tradition, it is quite easy just to have the same traditional songs just repeated, and people are
Hmm.
just repeating them. And obviously, when each person does it, it is unique because each person's voice is unique or their playing style is unique. but the way that you've brought in two other different types of folk song or folk culture is just very refreshing, and hopefully it'll just kind of spice it up a bit.
Oh,
So yeah, I think that's fantastic.
thank
And
you.
I mean, do you ever get people who are very, very much traditionalists and like it to be pure, who don't really appreciate what you're doing?
Um, no, I've not. They've not ever said anything to my face.
Well, that's good news. That is really good news. No, that's
No,
kind of inspiring.
yeah. Well,
Excellent.
actually, I remember once I was playing at Sidmouth, and and I think it was my first kind of like doing it in a folk scene kind of moment, and people weren't sure what they were gonna get, and at the end, this lady came up to me and she said, "Oh, I thought you were going to sound a bit like, I don't know, Aretha Franklin or something." Um, because I guess most black singers are known for having these like booming,
Hmm.
chesty voices, I guess. And so
Yeah.
she thought that's what she was gonna get. So I'm happy to surprise people.
Yeah, and then you come out with this beautiful, like high, clear voice. Very different. No, it's beautiful. It's fantastic. Now, you
Hmm.
have a new album in the works, is that
Yes.
correct? And
Yes.
what's the name of that album?
Oh, title to be confirmed.
Oh, okay.
um,
And what should we
yeah,
expect on it? What kind of songs?
you should expect themes on exploring bloodlines and borderlines and ancestral influences in my work. It's definitely going to be more of a um, exploration of genetics and heri- I wouldn't say heritage, but more just like unpicking unpicking my bloodline a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, unpicking the bloodlines and borderlines and really just exploring, do you know do borderlines really exist when I have all of this in my bloodline? So yeah.
Oh, amazing. That would be so interesting. It's
Mhm.
like when you do those tests to find out what's in your bloodline, but in
That's
a
it.
very musical, lovely way. I
That's
prefer
what
that.
inspired it. Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh wow. Imagine instead you could just pay for someone to write an album about your bloodline. That would be big
Hey.
business. Yeah.
Come to me. I'm doing it.
Fantastic. Well, I'll definitely keep my eyes peeled there. And as soon as it's out, we'll definitely post something at home stage to let people know that it's
Mhm.
there. And
Thank
it's
you.
just going to be fascinating. Now, we have unfortunately run out of time,
Mhm.
but it's been really interesting to talk to you because you've given us an insight into a kind of folk tradition that we haven't explored yet here. So you've paved the way for us with that. We have got one final song, but before we listen to that, I just want to say a huge thank you for joining us. It's been brilliant. So
Oh,
thank you.
thank you for having me, Maddie. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. And this last song is Reine Chanterelle Côté Où.
Hmm. Well done.
Yes. Okay. And what's this one?
It's Singing Queen, Where Are You? And it's a song asking for the singing queen to come and bring joy to a dark place.
Reine chanterelle, reine chanterelle, reine chanterelle, côté haut, reine chanterelle. Ben chanterai côté où, ben chanterai côté où, ben chanterai côté où, ben chanterai côté où, depuis tant nous ici, la nuit pas jamais. Soleil pas j'enclairé, ben chanterai côté où, ben chanterai côté où, ben chanterai côté où, ben chanterai côté où, ciel là fanant moussou. Cinq paires pour les croiser, yon para tout très fou, pour y faire l'aviron, n'approche chemin sans long, ben chanterai. Ben chanterai côté où, 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 si faut venir la caresser, si jour venir la couronner, oiseaux soleil à pause, venez de nous chanter.
Thank you very much for watching. To find out more information about our future Tuesday Folk People sessions, please sign up to our mailing list or keep an eye on our social media and website. Our next session will be a week from today at 8 p.m. See you then.